Well, the first time we played them, we had to prepare for two different teams. They were running two different offensive systems. It appears like they've settled on the system that we didn't get to play against the first time. They ran a 6-2 the first time. They're running more of a 5-1 offense now. They think they found some consistency, and it showed in how effective they've been offensively. So it's a completely really different team than what we saw earlier in the year. They're just comfortable with who they are. They've matured. They're comfortable with who they are. They've got the right hitters in the positions that they need to have them in to be successful. So a mature team that's confident in who they are is always a great match.
And Coach, of course, you guys have went undefeated in conference. So what was the biggest thing that you guys learned about this team and especially this offense and defense going into the tournament?
This has been, going back 13 months, this has really been a unique year. We've been learning about this team for a long time now. It's a group that's, they like to know what's going on. They like to know, they like to be a part of the process. And it's really difficult. It's been difficult for them to be a part of a process that none of us have any control over. So we've learned a lot about their resilience and their ability to bounce back and their ability to handle a situation that they don't have control over. Last minute changes because of reasons that, don't normally happen during the course of a year. So there's been, they've really been exposed to the entire gamut of change. And I've been really impressed with how well they've done it, going through adversity multiple times during the year. Adversity is part of our game, and it's just, we're always going to have to deal with adversity. So just being strong enough as a team to deal with that and know that, look, no matter what happens, we can put a great volleyball team on the floor that's going to play for each other, going to play for their school, and go out there and give it the best they got.
Compare preparing for this conference tournament here in a neutral setting in Cincinnati, traveling, compared to the last time where you hosted the conference tournament, the pluses and minuses, if you will, the contrast of the two conference tournaments.
Yeah, really it's not that much different, to be honest with you. Last time we were preparing for a home tournament, no different than we would prepare for a preseason tournament. It really wasn't any different at all. Or like preparing, for the NCAA tournament. This is no different than preparing for a preseason tournament or an NCAA tournament on the road. We're staying in a hotel that we're very comfortable in. We always stay at this hotel. Right now, I'm meeting with you from the same room that we always do our video in. I look out the window, it's the same view as it has been for the last 12 years. So there's not really anything that's new. The only thing that's new is, Cincinnati's done a nice job with their arena. They've made some changes in there and brightened it up a little bit, modernized it a little bit. We saw that last year. We saw it this year when we played them a couple weeks ago. So honestly, there's a really weird feeling walking in that gym today that I feel like we were just here a few weeks ago, and it's a very comfortable feeling.
And now throughout your conference play, serving is something that you guys have really improved on. So how is the serving game going to really benefit you guys in conference play?
Well, it has to. Teams just did not have the opportunity to build the serve-receive camaraderie, the lines of intersection and who takes what ball. The teams just never had that opportunity to pass thousands and thousands and thousands of balls as a passing core. And without that, there's a challenge in the communication because you just don't have a lot of time to decide whose ball is taking what, how you're taking it if a ball moves and drops. I mean, every time you're passing a knuckleball, and we watch baseball hitters look silly every time they get thrown a knuckleball. Well, our passers are trying to pass a knuckleball, every single time they're back there passing. That ball moves based on currents. It moves based on pressures. I mean, sometimes it moves for no reason at all. And so basically what you have to do is you have to call that ball the minute it comes off the setter's hands as quickly as you can call it. Sorry, server's hands. Call it as soon as it comes off the server's hands and commit to it. No matter where that ball moves in the gym, that's not your ball. You're going to run that baby down. And so I think the sooner you can call it, the sooner you can commit to it, the sooner you can get your arms on it, get your angle set, find a spot that we're trying to pass it to, the better. Teams just haven't had the months and months and months it takes to put that together. So for us, fortunately, we're blessed with experienced passers that speak the same language, that can make adjustments quickly. So our serve receive game has been, above average this year. Where we've shined in that is that, our serving has been tough. It's been something that's kept us afloat all year long, especially in moments where maybe the offense wasn't doing so well or the defense wasn't doing so well. The serving game always kept us in it. And part of that is the same teams went through what we went through. They went through months and months and months of not being able to build up that camaraderie among passers. So fortunately, with the returners, experienced players, the serve pass game is going to be really important. I like the fact that we have that experience in the serve receive line. And I like the fact that we have some pretty outstanding servers that can either put a lot of velocity to put pressure on a serve receive, or they can place balls in areas that makes it really difficult for communication, especially in a year like this where players haven't had a lot of time to work together.
With that in mind, which players on the team has taken that next step and, improved from day one here when the season started to now that maybe people are not aware of? Everybody always knows about McKenna and Anne-Marie and what they do, but which players on this team maybe took that next step that either maybe even surprised you or really kind of expedited the process?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I haven't had a lot of surprises. McKenna really runs the show when it comes to the serve receive, make sure that we're all lined up, make sure that we all know what our responsibilities are before the whistle blows. Ariana is not a surprise to us because we watched her play for Wichita State. We knew what she was capable of. She played against us a couple of times. And so we knew what we were getting when we brought Ari in. I think she just fit into her role here very well. Tolly was the wild card, but Tolly brings in a lot of international experience. And I think that, the more she gets comfortable with our system, communication, playing with the people around her, the more comfortable she gets passing. Then we got other great passers on the team. We got Chloe. Chloe's done a nice job for us when she's been in there. Mary Beth can go in there and pass. Stella can go in there and pass. So we've got a core of people that we really depend on, but there's some people behind them that can also come in there and help us out when we need to. We miss Fabi. I thought Fabi I thought she was going to really take a big step for us this year, and then just got derailed with an injury that took her out. So I feel bad for her because she's another player that would have really helped stabilize our passing core. But I like what we have right now. I think we're in a good spot, and that serve receive really just sets up the rest of our game. Hey Trace, how you doing?
Coach.
Sorry, I was on a work call. Sorry, I'm just jumping in now, but wanted to jump in when I could.
No problem. Sorry, Kennedy.
No, you're fine. Coach, you've had some returners that have been in this conference and played in the tournament for years now, but what are you kind of expecting out of them? Like, how have you told them to really step up and kind of help people like Tolly that have not played in our conference?
Well, this really is only the second year of our conference tournament. The good thing that we've had is that this group, this is actually their third go round. It's a group of starters that have been starting since their freshman year together. They went out and won the conference as a bunch of freshmen, then went out and won it as a bunch of sophomores. So there's not really anything that I need to tell them. I need to, as a coaching staff, we just need to provide them the information that they need to go out and be successful. and then just let them and their talent and their experience take over. I think once you get to tournament time, a coach can only help so much, but they can hurt a lot if they try to overdo it or they give too much or they make things too complicated. I think right now it's about being simple. It's about being effective in your communication. It's about building confidence. It's about saying the right thing at the right time. But it can't be about causing stress, anxiety, tearing down, anything that would make negative thoughts go into somebody's head. At this point, you want them thinking nothing but positive. It's like your closer in baseball. You want them going out there, giving up a home run and then striking out the next 3 guys. You don't want any negative thoughts in their head. And so that's really what we're trying to do right now, is just make sure that they're out there confident. They know they're capable of doing what they want to accomplish. And as a coaching staff, it's our job to put them in that position. Trace, I can't hear you, buddy.
All right.
There we
Try
go.
it again.
Yep.
There we go. Sorry about that. My apologies if you were asked this. I was thinking back to your conversation with us on Saturday night and the adversity that the team has faced with COVID and everything else. How do you think those sorts of experiences, which would not be typical, have prepared them for something that they're about to experience in this tournament? Just that they've worked through a lot of different types of adversity that they might not normally have faced.
Yeah, adversity is it's just we did talk about adversity earlier, but adversity is something that's never going to go away. We're always going to have to deal with it one way or another. Adversity, injury, concussions. I mean, we've dealt with it all this year. And that will come in handy this weekend as well. That's just the way it is. It's been that kind of a year, and this team has constantly stepped up. And I think once we get right into the moment and the whistle gets blown, there's 6 people on a floor representing the black and gold, and they're going to go out there and they're going to play their hearts out for themselves, their teammates, and for the school.
Talk about the schedule this year. You had to play the teams back-to-back nights, and you. I remember when I asked you about this at the beginning of this season, you said there was some positives and negatives to it. We'll see how it goes. How do you feel now, gone through it, compared to the normal schedule in a conference where you play a team maybe early in the year and play them later? To contrast that, and what do you think it means for the future? Was this just a one-year one-off as far as the scheduling is concerned?
Yeah, I don't know what's going to end up happening with conference scheduling in the future. Looking at this year, though, I think the positives outweighed the negatives when it comes to the series format, is what they're calling it, similar to a softball series or a baseball series. I like it. We spend so much time watching film, coming up with ideas, game plans, things like that. The amount of time that we put into each team is astronomical. And the fact that we only had to prepare for one team and then make adjustments after one night really has allowed us to claim a little bit of our lives back as coaches. So I don't know what from the athletes' perspective, what they like and don't like. I know from coaches, it's nice to put all that time into one team and then make adjustments for the second match versus put a bunch of time into one team and then a bunch of time into another team. Back when I was in the Big Ten and we had to play Penn State and Ohio State back to back, what you do is you pick one team and you prepare for them, and then you just go ride it out for the other team. And when we were playing in our league before, where you're playing one team and then another team, it was no different. It's us and USF. A team is going to pick one of us and prepare for one of us, and then just go try to ride it out against the other team. So, to be honest with you, I'm kind of liking this. Prepare for one team, play them in the weekend. Now, yes, the plus is you're going to play one team at home twice. The negative is you're going to have to go on the road and play Cincinnati at their place twice, or Houston at their place twice, or whatever it is. So, there's pluses and minuses to everything, but I think the overriding factor for the coaches is preparing for one team in a week is a lot nicer than going on the road, preparing for one team, and then having to prepare for another team while you're flying and busing and traveling and don't get great internet in the hotel to be able to watch film. So I think the simple nature of just having to play one team is not so bad. Hey, Trace, how long you been doing this?
There we go.
Okay, here we
I
go.
don't know what's going on with the buttons today.
Okay, yeah, blame it on the button.
Segue from what you just said, you've always been generous in your praise of your assistant coaches. And just talk a little bit more about them and the cohesiveness of your staff and how it has made this team stronger.
When I was in my formative stages, I had two really terrific coaches. Chuck Irby at Michigan State, national team coach, Final Four coach, really brought me along slowly and really held my feet to the fire. He was hard on me. I mean, there were days where I felt useless, but it was all part of growing and maturing. And, I've really done the same thing with these coaches to a degree, in that as they've shown their ability to handle parts of the program, I've turned over that part of the program to them. The other coach was Mick Haley, the world famous coach from USC and also with the US national team. Same thing. I had to earn my keep there. And once I did, he gave me a part of the program. And there's no doubt that the success of this program and the longevity of the success of this program is because I have been able to give recruiting and the offense to Jenny, and she has built on it and tweaked it and made it better. I just give suggestions here and there because I'm an offensive coach at heart. And so it's kind of tough for me to keep out of the film room of the offense, so to speak. She really has done a wonderful job of mentoring our setters, being a setter herself, has done a great job of mentoring the setters, diagnosing really what needs to be fixed, how we can fix it, what's the best way to fix it. She's really come a long way in understanding volleyball and the games and the chess that's played at the highest level. And she's constantly trying to learn and work and get better and know more about the game. She, well, a lot like a lot of great coaches, we all, the minute we think we know it all, that's the minute that we're done. We're always trying to get better. She's always craving information, trying to get better, pick brains, not only of us, but other coaches that she respects. And, she really has come a long way in taking charge of the offensive side of the ball. She's always been an unbelievable, excellent recruiter. And she's had to be at the head of previous stops because she wasn't always dealt the greatest hands where she's been before. And she's had to take those hands and still win poker. And she did. So then you flip it over to Brian, who's been in the Pac-10, Pac-12, very successful. Honestly, I believe that he's one of the most brilliant defensive blocking minds that there is in the country. Having people in the right spot, setting up the right schemes, knowing what to look for. The amount of film that guy watches, I thought I watched a lot of film. I pale in comparison to what he's done. Consistently now for several years, our team has been at the top in terms of blocks, not only in our conference, but nationally. And defense, digs, holding opponents, hitting percentage down. It's because of his experience and knowing exactly where to have players, playing the percentages, knowing exactly how to block, and forcing other teams to do what they don't want to do. And by forcing them to do what they don't want to do, it's keeping their hitting numbers down, their kill percentages down. And, that's something that Brian really, he's the best I've ever worked with. When it comes to doing that kind of thing. I learned from him. I thought at one point I was a pretty good defensive coach, and I don't even compare to what he has the ability to do, what he has the ability to see, and how he has the ability to put that into a game plan.
last question from me. You touched on this on Saturday, and this has become a hot topic here in the sport right now this week, and that's the fact that the tournament is 48 teams this year, not 64. It's going to be held in Omaha. There's been some coaches outspoken here in the last week or two saying that the NCAA should consider pushing it back to 64 with the success that basketball's had with the 68 in Indianapolis and the 64 in San Antonio. For those that haven't followed this closely, just describe how did it get to 48 teams in one location in Omaha, and the fact that, maybe in retrospect, it should have just stayed at 64 if you're going to hold it in Omaha.
Yeah, I can't put myself in the shoes of the NCAA. I mean, I agree with John Cook and Kelly Sheffield. But they've been the most outspoken. That maybe we prematurely went to 48. We didn't have to. But on the NCAA side of it, I see where they were going with it. They didn't know what they were doing at the time. And they cut all the Olympic sports by 25%. So it's not like they singled out our sport. Would I like to see 64? Of course. I think there's going to be about 10 or 11, 12, 13 teams are going to get left out that certainly deserve to be in the NCAA tournament. That's just the breaks. That's the way it is this year. We all knew it going in. And so it was up to all of us to build the resume that we thought was the resume needed to get into the tournament if you didn't get your automatic bid. I think that looking back, could the NCAA have slowed it down a little bit and said, let's wait and see how things go? Maybe we can go 64. Yeah, maybe. But that's easy for me to sit here, and say, yeah, that's what we should have done. I didn't have to make those decisions way back in September, August, whenever they had to make them. I think the one thing that I've seen that's been disappointing to me is there's been a lot of cancellations. And I understand it if you have, only 5 players left because of COVID or, the contact tracing or injuries, you got 5 players, you can't play. But there's a lot of cancellations that are taking place. And it's because 1 or 2 people might be out and there's not a whole lot of contact tracing. They have 10 or 11 people, but they're just not going to play. And the one thing that's really disappointed me is some of those teams are bubble teams. And, the question comes up, is it really a COVID cancellation, or is it just not a good idea to play a match where you're not at your strongest suit? Everybody's had to face that this year. Do you play or do you not play? You don't have your complete strength. Do you play or not? Some coaches have gone out there and played no matter what they've had. Some coaches have decided that it wasn't in their best interest to do that. Each program makes their own decisions. They have their own rules. I'm a firm believer, and I've always been a believer. If we got 6 healthy bodies, we owe it to the sport to go out there and play. As long as you got a setter and 5 hitters, and even if those hitters are 5'6" defensive specialists, you owe it to the sport to go out and play. And it's a trend that I've seen over the last 4 weeks, especially amongst teams that are close to that bubble and know that they can't afford losses. And all of a sudden matches are getting canceled. And I think that's frustrating, and it really disappoints me. Boy, I drop a bomb there, didn't I?
Let me end with this. You've been candid about your frustrations about polls and perceptions and the traditional powers in volleyball. What do you think that you can do, a UCF can do, an American can do to change that perception?
Win. So, we just got to go out and win. We Power 5 is not volleyball. Okay? Power 5 is football. Power 5 is not basketball. Basketball is basketball. And you see it happening in basketball. You see it happening in volleyball. You see it happening in softball and baseball. The difference between the autonomous 5 and everybody else is not that great. Last year we went out and we had 6 wins against them. This year we had scheduled a whole bunch of them. Next year we scheduled a whole bunch of them. There's not really that much of a difference. And I think there's a lot of schools that try to hang on that, well, we're autonomous 5 or power 5. And, I think the truth is You look at a school like Creighton. You look at a school like Hawaii. You look at a school like Colorado State. These are teams that have been in the Final Four, but they don't have that luxury of that name that gets thrown around over and over and over again. So there's already schools that are breaking through. What do? We just follow that path that they're doing, and we go out and we win. And if we go out and we win, then, I think everything else takes care of itself. Now, when it comes to subjective polls and things like that, do I think certain schools get the benefit of the doubt? Maybe. Hawaii hasn't played a match all year, yet they were ranked for 8 weeks. So I don't know how that happens. But to us, our job is to go out on the court and win. I could care less what the polls say, because the polls don't decide who wins and who loses. The first one to 25 points 3 times decides who wins and loses. And that's the only poll I'm interested in, is the one that happens at the end of the match. That's the poll that I want to be number 1 in. So, the RPI matters. That does matter. But the RPI is an algorithm, and it's objective, and it's who have you played, who have you beat, who have you lost to, who have they played, who have they beat, who they lost to. That's a little bit more objective. That's something that we got to keep an eye on. And that's something that we want to be good at. And, we've been top 25 in that poll now for a couple years, 3 years. We're there now. So that's the poll. That's really the only poll I'm interested in,